Hello, it's Joshua of Milestone Play, and welcome to another MP Side Trek. It has been about a year since I posted. I am supposed to be going out doing things, and this is meant as a means of getting myself to do stuff. So I was going to go to Canada. In Spokane, am currently 2.5 hours from Canada and have not done it despite living there for a year and a half. Due to other situations, I have been about 30 minutes from the border, and I'm going to be here for a couple of days, so I figured, let's go up. That was the plan. Go to a little museum, go hike a trail. I was going to go to Canada. But on the road, I met somebody. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey guys, I'm Chance. I'm a Pacific Northwest trail hiker. And thanks to Josh here, I'm getting to the trailhead early in the morning.
Yeah, so you are going around a fire detour?
Yep. Yeah, there's a fire here outside of Bonners Ferry, Idaho. And basically we are having to walk an extra 20 miles. But thankfully on this road I met Josh, and he gave me a ride up. And we're just seeing what happens today. That's kind of our mantra. Whatever happens, happens.
So currently uploaded on the channel and not available to any of you is an attempt at me doing a trail hike for a different video. For the main channel, I was going to be doing exhaustion rules and forced marches and stuff, and I never actually finished making the main channel video. So there is just me attempting like a 30-mile hike currently on this channel unlisted because the main video for it is not up. And so I was doing a lot of research, and doing research on the Appalachian Trail and all that stuff. You had mentioned trail angels.
Yes.
And as I'm driving, I'm heading towards the Canadian border, and I just see you pop out from the road. You throw your thumb up. I see the pack. I see all this stuff, and it's like, oh, I think I know what's going on. I don't know where he needs to get, but I don't really care about what my plan for the day was. So instead, picked him up. We've been going down just a very rough road, getting deep into a trailhead. And we've been having a wonderful conversation.
Yeah.
About through hiking, about section hiking, about life, about jobs, about stress, about food. Just all this different stuff. And
the benefits of meeting strangers. You get to have conversations you didn't anticipate.
Very much so. And so we're just gonna have a little bit more of that conversation now that we're out of the car and we're not bouncing around. And this is going to be the video for today.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Josh, and I appreciate everybody joining along on our hike. Hopefully it inspires you guys to go explore too.
It is smoky, but it is beautiful out here. You guys are gonna get some B-roll footage later.
Yeah.
I'll put it over the conversation. But one of the things we were talking about just before we got out of the car was the idea of personas and names. You have introduced yourself by your trail name, Chance.
Yes.
And you had asked about if there's any crossover between my job as a professional game master and playing role-playing games and taking on those personas at the table, and through hikers taking on a different name for the experience. Do you have any ideas on the topic before I just start blathering?
No, please. Start up.
So, in college, I actually minored in anthropology, and I did my honors thesis on living vicariously through yourself, on live action role playing being a means of testing out ideas of who you want to be, of whether it's beliefs in philosophy, gods, in substances, in courage and cowardice, and standing up for yourself, standing up for others. The idea that as a role-playing character, you can practice different aspects that you want to have in your life to experience things in a different way, in what is relatively a safe environment. And it's a false environment in some senses, but it's a manicured environment that you can just end whenever you want. So with that experience of living vicariously through yourself, What do you think of that phrase as a thru hiker, living vicariously through yourself?
I think there are parallels for sure. I come at this from more of a philosophy background, and some of your viewers may know Viktor Frankl and others like from the psychology background who talk about the hierarchy of needs, like Maslow's needs. And something that really got me to choose my trail name Chance was the idea of being aware of your own sentience, self-awareness, and that all happened in a moment of really on-trail chance. And I wanted to hold on to that, so I needed a name, a trigger, to remind me whenever I hear someone call my name, Chance, to be present in the moment, because that's how I found that we can be more in tune with our own sentience, which is not a common word these days, but I think it's like you were saying, being able to experiment with your mindset. It gives you that chance to accept whatever comes through you in time as okay, rather than trying to control everything that's coming at you. So it is a safe space, because if something goes wrong, that's all right. That's the role play I'm in as a hiker. It's just going as it comes, and whether I finish a trail or not, that matters much less to me. So I think there are parallels. What do you think, Joe?
I mean, I have no arguments against anything you have just said. The idea that you've chosen a name based off of how you want to react when other people say it, I find very interesting. In role-playing games, when people choose a name, there can be a bunch of reasons for it. Some people can choose a very simple name or a name similar to their own because they don't want to have to think about like, oh, are you talking to me? Some people can choose a name that like very much embodies the type of character they want to play, and there's a little bit of that, but in my experience, if you're taking a very strong name or you're taking a very erudite name, it's more of a fantasy of like, oh yes, of course I am this person, where
Alter ego.
very much alter ego-esque, but I think you've taken that a step further in the idea that like it is a reminder. Every time you hear it, it is a reminder of what you want to be doing, how you want to react to things. In more modern Dungeons and Dragons, there is a species you can play called a tiefling. Tieflings tend to be like partially infernal devil people, demon people, but an aspect of kind of the written culture of them in the base game is that they name themselves kind of like when they come up into puberty, they can choose a name based off of a virtue that they think embodies who they are. And so, based off of chance, I'm very much getting kind of a virtue name. That is my kind of interpreting of the situation, where not only is it, you know, this alter ego of what you want to be, but it is this constant reminder to you and those around you that are in the know, as opposed to just, I want to be Sir Galahad. Like, there's tones with Sir Galahad, there's tones with Elminster, and like, you know, Merlin, like, but we're going beyond tone. We're going a step beyond just how we want to feel, as this is a constant cueing, which I think is really fascinating.
Well, thank you, and I also am fascinated by to bring them joy in their current moment, because that's really, I mean, the action you take is less important than actually being present in the moment, because, you know, whether we notice the smoke or hear the birds, there's so many aspects of the noise behind us, we miss out until we're present. And similarly, your games help people illuminate all the things that they don't see because they're not present until they're with you. So maybe there's some crossover there as well.
Okay, so that I love that phrasing and I have the phrasing wrong already, but the actions we take are more important than being present. And then the call-in of doing stuff like my job of like getting people to be present through their actions. That reminds me a bit of Tolkien's 4 Elements of Fairy. Are you familiar with Tolkien as the writer of the Lord of the Rings?
Yes.
Okay, so very much an academic. He did a lecture and then wrote an essay off of that lecture on the 4 elements of fairy. And for any fairy story, you can generally think of it further into fantasy in general. The first one is fantasy. There has to be some greater element beyond the mundane. But from there, you get into escape and resolution, or reconciliation. And there is definitely escapism when you're playing games. But when we were driving, you were talking about the element of escape from stress, from life, from greater aspects.
Yeah, being constantly worried about the future.
So with that escape, you have reconciliation, which is where you come back to the world and you bring elements of fantasy, you bring elements of fairy back with you, where if you go off into an elven wood in a story, in a movie, a book, a game, and then you yourself go out into a forest, you are now able to once again see the elves, see the fairies, see the greater mystery and the wonder in that forest. You have brought that with you after returning from the escape. And having the idea that you brought up of the actions are more important than being present, because the actions will get you there, and then you realize it. In my brain, there's a link right there, and I'm not quite finding the words for it, but there's a link with that escape and reconciliation with your idea.
This might be too great of a leap, but it works for what I've done, because I've been on trail now for 3 years, doing the long trails across the U.S. And rather than feeling that as a 3-year period of escape, I believe it's much more of a 3-year period of immersion, almost into another culture that exists all around us, which we're unaware of because our dominant culture takes too much of our attention. And so it's more of a emerging into something other than who you were before, that gives you the satisfaction, because you're on a voyage, a quest, if you will, to discover where you're headed without having any control over it. And for me personally, what that has meant is having a very new, almost un-American, if you will, understanding of the word love. It's much more a matter of, in a public health way, love is the antidote to fear. All the people you see around you seem to be triggered by fear. Well, what is the role love can play in a broader sense, love in a non-romanticized way? And I think that comes back to what other cultures say about hospitality being next to God. Treat your strangers as though they are themselves in God, and you will find that you have God in you. So there's a lot of historical references that help us understand why we're experiencing what we are right now. But there's also just the reality. This is what's needed of us, is to be less fearful and more love-giving and love-receiving. But that's just one man's experience on 3 years of American trails.
I mean, just one man's experience on 3 years of American trails, yet so much of the natural park system, national park system and service and all of that is based off of what, John Muir?
Yeah.
And just his time on trail and just his experience walking around and then funding and fighting for the world that we have around us and not just creating all of it.
Yeah.
So one man's experience on a trail actually can carry a lot of weight.
Yeah, and I wouldn't necessarily be able to have these experiences if it wasn't for the forefathers of American systems of trails. We have 11 national scenic trails, and the Pacific Northwest Trail is just one of them. As recent as 2009 it was created. So everybody has this in their backyard if you look.
Sorry, I was just thinking about that phrase. Everyone has this in their backyard if you look. And we are currently in a very coniferous, mountain-based environment because we're in the Pacific Northwest. I grew up along the National Lake Shore with the Indiana Dunes, which is a bit of an anomaly compared to a lot of the national parks that we have around. This is not your native terrain, is that correct to say?
I'm from Pennsylvania, so yeah, this is quite similar but different. For example, just 2 miles to our north is a fire. We had to drive through the firefighter camp to get here. And I'm here because of the detour due to the fire. And so, you know, the space we're in is also tells the history of how the land has been used, which is another, you know, rabbit hole one can go in while they're hiking, is understanding the local cultures and norms and history. I have a habit of always asking those who I encounter, especially those who've lived somewhere for 15 to 50 years in the same area, how has it changed? And I've been doing that for 3 years, asking people, how has this space that you've lived in for so many years changed? And I've never yet heard in the tone of a voice a positive response.
Okay.
It is always that the nature is changing in a way that makes them feel out of control. And here we are walking through Washington's worst fire season in over 5 years. And I've seen big burly men with huge biceps. They're practically in tears because they can't show the forest to their children the way they remember it growing up. Anyways, these are the longer trend lines that when you ask certain questions come to light, no matter who you are, where you are. Things change. How does that make us feel? Well, so many people, that makes them feel fear. And so again, that's an opportunity for love to come back in. Because fear is not preordained. Fear is not something that has no antidote. That's the outcome of my hikes, is that there is an antidote to the thing that brought me onto the trail in the first place, which was a fear of my future. So another reason to go on section or long distance hikes.
There are a couple ideas there that I want to weave together, things that we have touched on and then things we have not touched on. But you've been speaking a lot about love. You've been speaking about love as the antidote to fear, but that is a very human connection. And I now want to take that in the direction of nature.
Okay.
And love as a cure for the fears people are having and the anger they're having about nature changing, about how every time you talk to people about how things change and it's always negative. When we were driving, we passed by an area with a lot of beehives. And you had mentioned that you've seen in some park areas that people are now being allowed to have beehives.
Yep.
Did you say national parks?
So the appears in Washington State, the U.S. Forest Service has allowed beehives to be put into certain areas, and I've not seen that anywhere else in the country.
Okay, so there's that element, and then before I picked you up, I think I passed by quite a few conifer tree nurseries. Whether that's for lumber, whether that's for, people getting Christmas trees and stuff. And I was previously thinking back to the idea of people renting Christmas trees in a pot, as opposed to the tradition of going and chopping down trees every year. To rent a tree in a pot. After the tree is served, 7 years, 10 years, whatever it is, it is then taken and gone and planted out as part of reseeding forests.
Great idea, yeah.
So these ideas of what is traditionally done versus some of these new changes that are not necessarily in the negative, but don't have that, that burly lumberjack, this is how we're supposed to do it.
Yeah.
Do you have any ideas on the aspect of love versus fear, love versus change, and how we interact with nature?
Well, and I think you may share this understanding from your background. You mentioned you spent time as a zookeeper and also working in wolf rehabilitation spaces. I think animals in nature have a different definition of fear than we do. It comes back around to something I learned while trying to chase down this feeling I had with love. Veterinarians, and this might go a little long, so feel free to edit, but essentially veterinarians have a term where the dog presents a fear of its own species, a conspecific, unnatural reaction to others of its own kind. This happens in dogs, and it also happens in humans. But you don't see this so much in wildlife settings. It's more of a fear of a predator, but not everything that you're surrounded by is a predator. And so an animal is not in a constant state of fear. I think what we have developed as a way of society, of civilization, it actually amplifies negative consequences in our biology to start to fear one another in a very con-species way, where we don't know or have a word for that fear, but it's because they're simply of our own species, and we've learned that. And again, I think love, in a new way of wrapping that word, will result in a more, a rewilding of people to not fear everyone as a predator. I'll pause there.
You said feel free to edit. I don't think I need to edit any of that. No, I am having an absolutely lovely conversation with you. I think
always happens when you walk.
Yes.
Walking just makes things better.
I'm not ready to say goodbye to you yet, but I will say goodbye to them.
If we carry on, we'll be in Medellin Falls in 5 days.
Oh, see, in a different situation, I would totally join you. I have other responsibilities, but I'm going to say goodbye to them. That way,
sweet.
That way you don't have to say goodbye to them. We're just going to leave it here. Thank you all for watching what was not a trip to Canada, but a conversation with Chance.